everybody. How's it going? I hope everybody's having a good week and a good week of writing. Let me know what you are working on this week. I'm always excited to hear what other writers are doing. So today I want to talk about identifying the weaknesses in your writing process and why it is so important to do this if you want to sell a lot of books and become sort of a career author, right? So let me ask you a couple of questions here. Do you have a fiction story, either written or partially written, or maybe yet to be written, that you know would benefit others? So either in the form of entertainment or inspiration or catharsis, you know, the reasons that we write stories. You have a story that you know would resonate with people, but you're stumped about how to produce that story. Either you don't know exactly how to buckle down and get it written, or maybe you don't know how to bring the story across in a way that would, you know, really truly touch people and connect with them on a deep, deep level. Or if you've got those down, maybe you don't know exactly how to market it and get it, you know, in front of the right eyes and the people who would appreciate it. Well, we are going to talk about all of that today and about why it's important to identify kind of the holes in your process, because those holes are what is keeping you stuck. They're what are keeping you from being really successful at this. Okay. I'm gonna adjust my camera just a smidge here. There we go. That's a little better. All right. So before we do that, I want to remind you about the workshop that I'm going to be holding in the Prolific Author Facebook group. I posted about it the other day as an announcement, and I will schedule the lives, the trainings as it gets closer. I can't schedule them more than a week in advance, so I'm not allowed to schedule them yet. But it's going to be on July 6th, 7th, and 8th, okay? So we are going to be talking about lots of really, really important things, and I hope you'll join me there. If you want to register for that workshop, you can do it here at bit.ly/TPA workshop, okay? So I would encourage everyone to do that. They are going to be held, the trainings, inside the Prolific Author Facebook group. So if you are already in there, you don't have to register for it, but it's still a good idea so that I can send you reminders and just to make sure you don't miss anything. But they will be, you know, directly, I will go live into the Facebook group, and the videos will live in there live for about a week afterward too. So just something to keep in mind. But if you want to make absolutely sure that you don't miss anything, then go ahead and go to this bit.ly/TPA workshop and register there. Okay. All right. So let's get to it today, to what we're talking about. So I'm going to ask you the questions again, and I want you to really, really think about them as I'm asking them. Okay. Do you have a story that is either written, partially written, or yet to be written that you know would resonate with people? I'm going to go ahead and assume that the answer is yes, because if it weren't, I don't think you would probably be listening to this live, right? I believe that everybody has at least one story in them. Lots of people have more. If you feel called to write and called to be an author, then you probably have a lot of stories in you. But I believe everybody has at least one that can benefit our fellow humans, okay? But are you stumped as to how to get it written? Do you know, you want to write, you love to write, you want to get the story written, but every time you sit down, you know, you find yourself procrastinating or unable to sit and write for long periods of time, and you just are struggling with how to sit down and get the writing done, okay? Is that you? Be honest with yourself. So if maybe that's not you, maybe you don't have a problem writing, but you are worried about bringing the story across in a way that will really, really benefit the reader. I remember worrying about this when I first started writing. I would write and then I would read it, and it just felt very amateur. And I could tell that it just wasn't quite where it needed to be. But I wanted to tell a really groundbreaking story that would connect with people on a deep level, that people would love and that people would really latch onto, okay? If you don't know how to do that, you want to do it. And maybe you have a few ideas, but you're just not super, super confident. You know, maybe that's something that's a little bit of a hole in your process. And if you don't have the confidence to do that, you're going to have a whole lot harder time sitting down to write, because you're going to be doubting yourself. You're going to be worried about it. So one of these things feeds into the others, right? And finally, maybe you've conquered all of that. Maybe you already have a book written or just about written, but you have no idea how to market it, how to get it in front of the readers who will appreciate it, who will be interested in reading it, who will want to buy it, all of that, right? So do any of those things apply to you? If so, this training is for you and you're in the right place, okay? Trust me, I've been right where you are. For those of you who don't know, who maybe haven't been following me very long, I've been an author for about 10 years now. And for the better part of that 10 years, I had no idea what I was doing, right? I was floundering around just like everyone else, trying to figure out what worked, trying to nail down my systems and my processes. And yeah, for a long time, not doing a very good job of it. Okay. There were years where I only got one book written. There were years when I got no books written. But through a lot of trial and error and over a lot of time, I was finally able to figure it out. And I don't want you to have to go through 10 years of trial and error before you figure it out. Okay. I want to teach you what works. Some of it is just universally it will work, and other things like marketing, what is working now. What is working 3 years ago is not the same thing as what works now. Okay. There's differences, and you need to be able to really go after the things that will move the needle for you and pivot when things change. All right. I really deeply believe that when you learn to systematize your writing processes, you'll cultivate more loyal readers, write and therefore sell more books, and be able to build a truly satisfying and monetarily sustainable author business. Okay. I believe that because I've done it, because I've worked with other authors who have done it, because most of my author friends have done it. It takes time and it takes effort, but mostly it just takes knowing what works and putting together systems that will work for you. Okay. So I asked you basically 3 questions, and those were very purposeful questions because they correspond to the 3 pillars that you need to conquer, I guess, in order to really become a successful author. Okay. There are 3 pillars. We are going to talk about them today and why it's important that you get them nailed down if you want to be successful at this and make your living as an author. All right. So let me start by saying that there are a lot of people out there, including a lot of authors, who say that formulaic fiction is a bad thing. Now, I'm not going to say that it isn't necessarily. It really depends on what you're talking about when you say that and how you're interpreting it. Obviously, we all know, we've all read books out there that are ripoffs of the classics, right? Books that are pretty much Harry Potter or Twilight with different names, okay? And if you're calling that formulaic fiction, then I would agree that that is not a good thing, okay? We need a little more creativity than that. We need to be more groundbreaking than that as authors. However, there is a formulaicness, totally a word, that is important to use in our fiction. And why is that? Because all human beings absorb story in exactly the same way. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. All human beings absorb story in exactly the same way. And this is not something that happens on a conscious level, okay? This happens subconsciously. There is a reason that certain types of stories always resonate with readers. And it's not a particular genre. It's not a particular framework like the quest versus the romance or anything like that. It's just the way the story is positioned that allows the reader to connect with it always. And most readers, they can't even articulate this, right? Let's use, okay, this is not a book. We'll use The Dark Knight as an example, okay? Do you remember when The Dark Knight came out? Do you remember what happened when you saw it? Think about it for a minute. I remember that I didn't go see it opening weekend, but I went and saw it like within a week of it opening. And everybody said it was amazing, okay? And I remember going into work and talking to people who had already seen it. And I would be like, people are saying this is amazing. Is it true? And they would just go, oh my gosh, it was so amazing. And they wouldn't really say why. And that's probably because they didn't want to give spoilers or anything. But this is what happens with books too. It's what happens with stories of any kind. They will tell you in the reviews that the characters were amazing, that the world was amazing, that the ending was so satisfying, things like that. And that's all true. But they also can't really articulate specifically why. Okay. But if you understand why people connect with story, how they connect with story, and put the elements of those connections into your story, you will hit a home run every single time with your readers, okay? So if you want to do this for a living, if you want to cultivate really loyal fans that will come back to you again and again and again because you write amazing stories that they love and that, cultivate emotion in them and have a really satisfying ending and they just feel stuff when they read your books, okay, you have to learn how to do that if you want to be successful at this. I can tell you that I write 4 different genres, and that is actually not something that is seen as a very quote unquote, good thing when it comes to being a writer in this day and age, because it's hard to sell to different genres. And so most people will tell you that it's wiser to only have one genre, or at least to start out and get yourself really well established in one genre before you pursue any others. It is becoming more and more common for authors to write in different genres now that it's very possible and very easy to do. I won't say that I was, the wisest in the way that I approached this in the beginning, but the reason I'm telling you this, my point is that I have readers who maybe read one or two of the genres that I write and won't read the others, but they will read the books that I write in those genres. It is because they're loyal to me as an author, but it is because I know how to tell a story that they love, and it does not matter what genre it is. So that is what I want for you. I want you to set a goal, even if you never use it, even if you're not planning to write in multiple genres, that's fine. But you need to be a good enough storyteller that no matter what you are working on, no matter what the genre, no matter who the characters, no matter what happens in the story, you can write a story that readers will connect with. That is how you become a really successful author, okay? So that is pillar number one. You need to learn how to tell a story that readers will love. And again, this is not me telling you what to write, or, I so often hear people say things like, even writers will say things like, well, yeah, you can start with the hero's journey, but that's just a jumping off point. Don't stick to that. And again, I'm not saying that's wrong, just depending on exactly what we're talking about here, but I cannot tell you how hard I facepalm when I hear that, because what it tells me is that that writer does not understand the way that readers connect with stories, okay? And I'm not saying you have to stick to the hero's journey by any means, but you need to understand how those connections happen in the human brain on a subconscious level. And if you are making light of that or just writing it off, you're going to have a really hard time making it as an author. I can promise you that. Okay. So the first thing you need to nail down is making sure that you know how to tell a story that readers love. Now, let's say that you have learned all of that. In fact, there was a time when, well, I won't say that I had learned all of it, but there was a time that this happened to me. So like I said, I was floundering around trying to get my books written and figure out what works and figure out how to be an author. And then I was going to college. I was at Weber State in Utah. And the League of Utah Writers, which is our local writing organization, they did a spring workshop. And it was super cheap. It was actually held on campus, and it was like $20 to get in for a student, So I was like, yes, I'm going to that. I'm interested in that. And so I went to it, and Dan Wells, who is actually now a very well-known YA dystopian author, was the one giving it. And he basically presented his version of plot points and planning. And that really just absolutely floored me. I had never understood before that there was a way to make sure, as I've just, spent 10 minutes describing, that you can make sure that your story connects with readers. And that's basically what he was presenting to us. So for the next few years, I just learned everything I could on the subject. I was constantly searching the internet for articles and blog posts and trying things out in my writing and figuring out what worked and what didn't by workshopping it in a writing group and all of that stuff. Okay, it takes time, it takes dedication. And I did figure out what was working, and I did have good results. But once you get that done, now that's great that you know how to tell a great story. You still have to get it written, right? So that's what comes next. I was somebody who was in college for a long time, for like 7 or 8 years, and it's because I screwed around a lot, changed my major, and there were several times that I would take a semester off. And when I did that, I always said I was taking a semester off to get my book written. I think I did that 2 or 3 times over the time I was in college. Not once when I took the semester off did I actually get a book written, okay? The first full-length book that I wrote the final semester of college while I was finishing up my classes, while I was doing finals, and while I was getting ready to graduate, okay? So I could go off on a tangent about productivity and accountability, and I won't. But the point is, you need to know how to sit down, get your butt in the chair, get your hands on the keyboard, and get your book written, okay? That is the second pillar that you need to master. Now, I say get that story written efficiently, but what does that mean? Efficiently can mean a lot of different things, okay? It means, of course, sitting down and getting your words written. That's the biggest thing. It can mean getting it written quickly. Now, I know writing a book quickly, that sentence, that idea makes people cringe, but I don't mean writing it so fast that you sacrifice quality. That's not what I mean. I just mean being efficient about it, writing a certain amount every day, so that you're constantly making progress on that book and are just being really efficient with your time so that you can get your book written, as I like to say, in the cracks of life. You know, if you're still working a full-time job, if you have a family, which most of us do, you've got to figure this out, and you have to be very productive with your time. Another thing that efficiently can mean is creating a process for writing all of your books that is repeatable, that is predictable. Now, of course, I don't mean writing a predictable story. That's not what I'm saying. I mean knowing yourself and your writing process so well that you know how long it takes you to write a book, and therefore you can predict when your book is going to come out, at least, you know, within reason, and how many books you're going to be able to get written in a year. Okay, so that if you don't have a business with results that can be repeated, that can be predictable, you don't have a business. Okay, if you can't count on a certain level of income, then you have to find income elsewhere, right? You absolutely can get to this point with your writing and with your books. It takes a little bit of time, and it's definitely going to take training. But if you want to turn it into a business, once again, and live wholly on your book royalties, you have to learn to get your story written efficiently and in a way that you can repeat. Okay, so that is the second pillar that you need to master. All right, so let's say that you are on a roll. You've got this down. You know how to write a story that readers love, and you have nailed down your process. You can get it written efficiently, and you get that book written. Well, now what do you do? Most people who approach me on social media or in my Facebook group, the number one thing they want is marketing. And I understand marketing is hard. It is. And what I will tell you is that it's getting harder. There's never been a better time to be an author, to be able to get your books out to the world and make your living this way. But there's also a lot of competition because a lot of people, just like you, want to do that. And our ads are getting more and more expensive. Okay, it's the unfortunate truth. But if you want to succeed at this, it's not something to be afraid of. You just need to accept that the ads are getting more expensive. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to figure it out, but you will. Okay, and I'm going to help you. So, as I said, let me switch that. Okay, so the third pillar that you need to master is marketing efficiently. That does not always mean paid ads. It can mean paid ads, and that can be one arm of your marketing plan, but you need to learn to market in a way that it's not going to break the bank, that you are, turning a profit, and that you are in it for the long haul. I think a lot of people who want, quote unquote, want marketing, they want something quick that's going to get them sales overnight. And there are some things that will do that, but that is not going to be the way that you sustain your author career for the long haul. So if you are in this for a lifetime of telling stories and publishing books and being an author, you need to go deeper than that. You need to learn to master your marketing. Now, you should be marketing at every single stage of the author journey. Most authors do not do that, okay? Most authors, the reason that it takes them 10 years and the reason it took me 10 years to get to where I am is because you write your first book and then you try to market it. And then from learning that over the next, the first year that your book is out, you kind of learn what worked and what didn't work, and then you can implement it earlier on your second book. And then you do the same thing with your third and your fourth. And by the time you have 5 or 10 books out, you're kind of a pro at it. You know exactly what to do, when to do it, etc. But that takes time. And what I'm trying to say is that you need to learn how to do that early on in order to create a sustainable author business. Okay, so you need to master these 3 pillars: telling the story your readers love, get that story written efficiently, get all your processes nailed down, and market efficiently, preferably at every stage of the author's journey. In other words, you need to identify the holes or the weaknesses in your writing processes that are keeping you stuck, okay? Because I promise if you have a leak in any of these pillars, that's why you're having a hard time being successful, okay? That is why you're writing books and uploading them to Amazon or wherever, and they're not really selling, okay? These are the things you need to nail down, and suddenly the money will start streaming in, and the sales and the fans and the readers and everything that you want. Okay, so once again, I kind of just said this, but why? Why do we need to learn these things? Because of everything I just said. Because if you want to create a sustainable business, this is just what you have to do, okay? It's not going to happen overnight. This is the kind of thing that is going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of work on the front end. Let's compare it to something else. Let's say that I really want to run a marathon just because I want to. It's my dream. It's a bucket list item, something that I want to do. I absolutely can do that. But the very first time that I put on my running shoes and walk out of the house, am I going to run 26 miles? No. It takes a little bit of training, right? It takes a little bit of work on the front end to accomplish that. And that is what you're going to need to do if you really want to be a career, lifelong author. Okay, so understand that this is something that you need to figure out if you want to be successful. I'm going to do the workshop in about 2 weeks, once again, July 6th through 8th, that will at least get the ball rolling on this. And then after that, I'm going to launch my academy. And the academy is going to be about teaching you how to do every single step of this in detail, step by step, implementation, accountability, all of that. So if this is something that interests you, excuse me, just stay tuned. Make sure that you sign up for that workshop. Where is my, there it is. It is at this URL, bit.ly/TPA workshop. I also put this in the comments of the Facebook group post so that you can click on it, and I will put that on the Facebook page too. I didn't put it on the page, I only put it in the group, but that way it's a clickable link and you can go to it and register for it. Okay, so I'm going to be doing that in about 2 weeks, and then I will be opening the academy, and I will teach you how to do this step by step so that you will already have all at once, you'll kind of cut through all the 10 years of research that it took me to do to figure this out. Okay, you could figure this out on your own, you really could, but it's going to take years and hours of searching Google and finding things and then testing them to see what works, and I've already done all of that. So that is why I'm going to present that to you in the academy if it's something that you're interested in learning. But for now, go ahead and rewatch this live if you didn't catch all of it, so that you understand on a broad level the things you need to master in order to become a lifelong career author and make money off your royalties. Okay, that is my goal for you, to get you to that point, because I truly and deeply believe that every single person who wants to do that can do it. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of competition online, there is, but you can learn how to be successful in this online global environment that we're in, and build the business that you want, even if it's a fiction business, and even if it's something that people have told you isn't possible or isn't sustainable or isn't predictable enough. No, you can do that if you want to do that, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, so that is all I have for you today. Make sure and sign up for the workshop, and I hope to see you all there. I will probably go live again next week, one more time before the workshop, so I will see you then. In the meantime, have a great week of writing. Have tons of fun writing your stories, and I will see you next time. Bye.